We're discussing how, and Sripad is saying that Akila sadhana sadhya tuchavat, that all that possible, any kind of sadhana and sadhya you can conceive of practicing, or any goal you can hope to attain, it's insignificant when you compare it to serving Radharani's lotus feet as her dasi in Manjari Bhav or Kinkari Bhav, which is kind of the conclusion of this verse 62. And of course, he's trying to encourage everyone about this point. So to attain Sri Radha's eternal loving service in the charming bowers of Vrindavan, she's so beautifully described here as Sri Vrindavan Kunja Manju Grihini. Grihini means housewife, but it means the lovely goddess of the Kunjas. So in Ramananda Samvad, that's of course in Madhya Lila chapter 8, Lord Chaitanya asks, what is the ultimate goal of life, which makes all other goals insignificant? Because this verse is talking about sadhya. Sadhya means goal, attainment, objective. What is the objective? We ask someone, what are you doing? I'm practicing sadhana bhakti. What do you want? Thank you. I want to go back to Godhead. People say, I want to go back home, or I want to go back to Godhead. So the idea is, I want to go to a place, the Dham, the spiritual world, but what do you want to do there? Well, basically we should say, I want to attain Krishna Prem. Whether I go here or there, it doesn't matter. If that's Lord Chaitanya's teaching us, he's telling us the goal is prema. And Prabhupada is encouraging us, just get out of this consciousness, get out of this enjoying consciousness, get out of this material consciousness and world, and go there to the Goloka, the spiritual world. But everywhere, Prabhupada is also telling the goal of human life is prema, Krishna prema. So our goal is prema, whether we take birth again or not, it doesn't matter. Because if you're in prema, then you're in the spiritual world. Because the world, it's a world, we say world, but actually it's consciousness. That's why Prabhupada says Krishna consciousness. It's a plane of consciousness. So when one attains purity in mind and heart, and actually attains bhava and prema and bhakti, which is the ultimate attainment, then he doesn't feel that I'm not in the material world. He's called liberated. He's actually jivan mukta sayuchate. Said iha yasya harer dasye karmana manasagira. Says jivan mukta sayuchate, that all his karmas, all his prarabdha and aprarabdha and kutam and bijam, all of his karmas, anything that's material about him has been eliminated, and she, whomever, they are in divine consciousness. They are in pure Krishna consciousness. So the Bhagavatam is saying they're jivan mukta. They are already liberated. They're in the body, but they're liberated souls. So if they're liberated, it means they're free. They're not here. They're not. This is a place of bondage, janma and mrityu. So if they're liberated means freed from one thing. Someone ties you up, and then what does it mean to liberate you? It means they untie you and you have freedom of movement. So when you're liberated, then you go to the Dham, the Param Dham. So even when they're here in this world, they're living in that consciousness. They're living in the spiritual world. So prema is our goal. So this is the topmost goal. So Lord Chaitanya is echoing the same point, because Sripad Prabodhananda Ananda Saraswati, and all of her acharyas, they take their lead, they get the foundation of all the philosophy. It's Gaudiya Siddhanta. It comes from the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, and his inspiration, his empowerment has enabled all of our Mahajans and Gaudiya Vaishnava acharyas to write the books they wrote, and to give the teachings they gave, and to live the lives they lived as examples and directions and guides for us to attain spiritual perfection in the eternal service of Radha and Krishna and Vrindavan. So when Lord Chaitanya said, there's so many goals of life, so many goals of sadhana, so many types of sadhana, which one is the best? And what does he say? Radhara prema sadhya shiromani mahima sarva shastrete vakani. Sarva shastrete vakani. The Vakya. Shastra. All the Shastras are saying, what are they saying? Radha Prem Sadhya Shiromani Mahima. This is Radha Prem. Love of Radharani is the crown jewel of all goals of human life, proclaimed by all the scriptures. So when God, our God is Radha and Krishna in the form of Mahaprabhu. And so God is asking on the behalf of all living entities, because people often say, they come to a spiritual movement or they meet some devotees and they say, oh, I'm confused. We often hear this word, I'm confused. Ever feel confused? So they say, I'm confused. There's so many gurus and there's so many paths and there's so many movements and so many institutions and so many books, and everyone is saying theirs is the best, I should go there and go here. I'm confused. I don't know which way to go. So Lord Chaitanya, he's saying clearly, this is as far as he's concerned, this is the Siddhanta, this is the Param Gati and the Param Sadhya, the topmost supreme goal for Gaudiya Vaishnavas. So being a Gaudiya Vaishnava, as we all are, or trying to become, then we should identify with this conclusion, because when Ramananda Roy gave this answer, Lord Chaitanya said, yes, this is right. But when Ramananda Roy gave other answers to his questions, Gauranga's questions, then Lord Chaitanya said, no, this is wrong, go higher. At one point he was discussing, and their discussions, Ramananda Samvad, Lord Chaitanya said, how do you attain the goal of life? And Ramananda Roy said, oh, karma samarpan. You should offer samarpan. You should offer the Lord the results of your karma. Samarpan. And then Lord Chaitanya heard that answer. He said, no, I reject this. This is not. Go higher. Tell me more. And then he said, oh, what is the path? What path should we follow to attain perfection? Then he said, oh, we should do Nishkam Bhakti. Lord Chaitanya said, no, this is okay, but you must go higher. I don't accept this. Then he said, Sarva, he quotes Gita, he says, Sarva Dharman Prityaja Mamekam Sharanam Braja. We should surrender everything and just surrender everything to Krishna and depend on him and be fearless. And Lord Chaitanya said, no, this is external. Go higher than this. So even the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita, this is in Ramananda Samvad, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 8. Lord Chaitanya said, no, higher. Then he said, oh, the way to attain the goal of life is higher than surrender, is to follow the Brijvasis and Ragmarg, the Ragatmikas, as Krishna's servants or Krishna's friends. And it goes higher and higher, and finally it comes to the idea of worshipping and serving the Brijvasis, the Ragatmika Janas of Vrindavan, and especially coming to all the way to serving Radha and Krishna. So here he's saying, what is the ultimate goal of life that makes all other goals insignificant? Which is exactly what this verse 62 is saying. What is the ultimate goal of life which makes all other goals? All other goals means akila or sarva. Akila sadhya, akila sadhan. All other goals. So Sripad Prabhupada Saraswati, who is an eternal associate of Radha Govinda and Gauranga, he's saying the same thing. All other goals and all their sadhanas are tuchavam. They're insignificant when compared to this. What is that? And that's the answer Ramananda Roy gave. Radhara prema sadhya shiromani mahima sarva shastrete vakani. The crest jewel of all sadhyas. Sadhyas means goal. The crest jewel of all goals is the love of Radharani. Radhara prema. Radhara prema sadhya shiromani mahima sarva shastrete vakani. The Radha prem, the love of Radharani, is the crown jewel of all goals of human life, which is proclaimed by Sarva Shastra, all the Shastras. So this is the fact that is told here, and this verse concludes on that point, that this is the greatest goal. And then if one is somehow has the fortune of following this type of sadhana to achieve this sadhya, which is the matchless gift of Lord Gauranga, then what he experiences, he or she experiences, then that's also told here. And the last phrase, he says, Dattva Swadasyotsvam. He's saying that this is a festival, Dasi Utsav, Das Utsav. Usually, if someone thinks of a festival, they think that they're in a festival, if it's to be really Utsav, or a festival of enjoyment, they may think that they should be the center. Someone may have a birthday party, then they are the center. Everyone's giving them gifts, everyone's coming to visit them or honor them or whatever is done in a birthday party. There's whose birthday? It's someone's birthday, some man or woman. Everyone's coming to congratulate them and wish them well and bless them. But here, it's a festival, a slavery festival, being a festival of slaves. So the slaves, in one sense, were slaves of love, were slaves of Radharani's loving service. A maidservant means you do anything. You're a handmaiden. Whatever I tell you to do, you do. So that's a festival, the festival of Seva, Sevotsava. So it's called Dasi Otsav Swadatam. Dattva. When will you give this to me? O Radharani, in this verse it says, you have bestowed. One translation says, you have bestowed. And so this he's saying that she's a bestower of this great, she's, yes, that one will actually feel this way, according to the second translation. One will feel that everything is insignificant. Many times devotees have practiced different paths and different spiritual practices before coming to Krishna consciousness, or maybe even a context of Krishna consciousness, practicing Vaidhi sadhana. But what's being said here in the translation is part of this. So when a devotee comes to the path of Raganuga Bhakti, or Rag Marg, then he may think that whatever other practices that he may be performed outside of Krishna consciousness or preliminary to adopting the path of Bhakti with the intention of attaining Krishna Prem, he may think that, they're all tuchavat, they're all insignificant. So when someone, Dattva says Rasotsavam, if Radharani somehow, Radharani bestows the great gift of her seva, of her service, and accepts us as one of her aspiring maidservants, a sadhaka of Raganuga Bhakti, then one feels that he's really attained great fortune, that he's really attained, it's a festival, life has become a festival for his consciousness, a festival for his mind, a whole new paradise and paradigm, a whole new paradise and paradigm opens in his mind and heart. Because before that, now he had the follower, the Raganuga Bhakta, on the path of Mandri Bhav Upasana. It's a very specified. He has Guru, Diksha and Shiksha Guru are guiding him on the path of bhajan and the path of meditation and smaran. So as he treads that path, it's very specific and it has its guidelines. And when you practice this, like anything, like you may get a book on yoga, Hatha Yoga, and you take it home and you learn Surya Namaskar and you learn some asanas. That's one way to do it, and you can get some good knowledge. But if you're fortunate to meet a very compassionate and good teacher of yoga, then you can learn very nicely and much more perfectly. And avoid some of the pitfalls or maybe mistakes. You may even injure yourself without a teacher if you perform Hatha Yoga the wrong way, hurt your neck or different things like this. Or what to speak if you have high blood pressure and then you decide, you look at the yoga book and it says, Shirasana is very good. It's very good for health, Shirasana, standing on the head. But if you have high blood pressure, even if you're taking blood pressure medicine to pacify it, it's very, very dangerous asana. Very dangerous. And the book may not tell you that, but if you stand on your head, you may have a heart attack or a stroke. So therefore, before one has proper guidance on the path of bhakti and meditative practices, it may be a little scattered and not focused or clearly understood.